You look at someone who's just brilliant, a top student, a celebrated expert, someone with a genius-level IQ, and you think, there's no way they mess up, right? Well, what if I told you that their greatest weapon, that very intelligence, is also their most dangerous trap?
So let's really dig into this because it's a puzzle we see play out all around us. Why do the smartest people in the room sometimes make the biggest, most jaw-dropping mistakes? I mean, it seems to fly in the face of logic, but there's a really fascinating reason behind it.
Just think about the classic examples. We've all heard these stories. You've got the brilliant doctor, right? Knows everything about the human body, but totally ruins their own health.
Or what about the genius investor? The person who can spot market trends from a mile away, but then loses their entire fortune on one really bad bet.
And then you have the award-winning scientist, someone who can tackle the universe's biggest mysteries, who gets fooled by a simple email scam. You might think it's rare, but it happens way more than you think. And it's not just bad luck. There's a pattern here.
And that pattern, it actually has a name. It's called the intelligence trap. And here's the kicker. It's this paradox where your huge IQ and all your expert knowledge, they don't really help you make better decisions. In fact, sometimes they lead to even bigger, more foolish mistakes. Your brain power doesn't act like a shield. It becomes an amplifier for your worst biases. It's wild.
So how on earth does this happen? Well, to really get the trap, we first have to understand something fundamental about how our brains are wired to think. See, we're not exactly pure objective scientists searching for truth. We're something else.
Okay, this slide gives us a perfect way to think about it. Imagine your mind isn't a scientist, carefully gathering evidence and then forming a conclusion. No. Instead, picture your mind as a lawyer. And what does a lawyer do? A lawyer starts with the conclusion, my client is innocent, and then works backward, picking and choosing only the evidence that supports their case. Psychologists call this motivated reasoning, and believe it or not, that's our brain's default mode.
And this is where the trap snaps shut. Your intelligence doesn't necessarily make you a better scientist. It makes you a better lawyer. A person with a super high IQ can build these incredibly sophisticated, super convincing arguments to defend what they already believe, even if those beliefs are just plain wrong. Their brain power becomes a weapon, not to find the truth, but to win the argument, especially with themselves.
All right, so let's break this down a little more. Let's look at a few common and pretty dangerous ways this plays out, some specific traps that really smart people are especially likely to fall into. It so often starts with this simple, almost silent thought. A little voice in the back of your head that just gets louder and louder with every success, every compliment.
And that brings us to the ego trap. For a lot of smart people, being the smart one isn't just a thing they are, it's who they are. It's their entire identity. So when someone points out a mistake, it doesn't feel like helpful feedback. It feels like a direct hit, a personal attack. And their inner lawyer goes into overdrive, not to fix the mistake, but to protect the ego at all costs. Think about that brilliant surgeon who just ignores a nurse's totally correct observation out of sheer pride, putting a patient at risk.
Now, the ego trap has this sneaky cousin, and it might be even more dangerous. It's that quiet confidence that creeps in after years and years of learning and experience. We call this one the expert trap, or sometimes earned dogmatism. It's when you've worked so hard, you've earned your expertise, and you feel like you've finally reached the top of the mountain. But that feeling, it can become a cage. You get closed off to new information that challenges what you think you know.
So if just being smarter isn't the answer, then what is? How do we get out of these traps? Well, the solution isn't about having more intelligence. It's about cultivating a totally different quality of mind. And that antidote is intellectual humility. Now, this is really important. This is not about thinking you're dumb. It's the total opposite. It's about being smart enough to realize that no matter how much you know, there's an infinite amount that you don't know. It's having the guts, the courage, to just say, you know what? I might be wrong about this. And this is something you can actually practice. First, fire your inner lawyer and hire an inner detective instead. Go out and actively look for evidence that disproves what you believe. Second, you've got to separate your identity from your ideas. When someone challenges your idea, they're not challenging you. And third, always practice perspective taking. Genuinely try to ask, how could another smart, reasonable person see this completely differently from me? This table really nails the difference. I love this analogy. Think of intelligence as a really fast car. It can get you somewhere in a hurry. But wisdom is the GPS. It tells you if you're even going in the right direction. Without that GPS, that fast car can just drive you right off a cliff. Intelligence is all about finding answers and being certain. Wisdom is about asking better questions and being comfortable with not knowing everything.
It's not about what you know. It's about how you think. What's one belief you hold pretty strongly? It could be about your job, your life, anything that you could genuinely question today. Because escaping the intelligence trap, it all starts with that one single, powerful act of questioning yourself.